an opportunity to voice our concerns and to participate in how we might be able to together accomplish in turning that non-performing school system around here on the nation. But it's not only within the school system. I think we have to spend some time understanding what are some of the underlying factors to why our kids are underperforming. And it's true, 0 through 5 years of age is the prime age of a person's life, where what they learned or then during that timeline, what they know for the rest of their life, is taught to them or learned by them in that age range. So I think that what we need to do is, what are some of the underlying factors? What are the home situations like? What's going on within the home that is impacting our children's ability to learn, or our children's ability to even continue through school? We're losing a huge percentage of our kids that have accomplished in grade school at the middle school level. For whatever reason, there's a huge percentage of our kids that are not completing high school, or not even leaving middle school to high school.
Candidate Lucas.
Yes, there is some revitalization of dealing with the low standards in our schools, and I applaud the superintendent for taking on that responsibility. But yet he has to be a community liaison to try to figure out what the problems is of attendance, tardiness, and all these other things that was mentioned, because there's two sides to this. What was brought up is the social impact of our kids. And I might just some of those parents are still dealing with social problems, and it does affect those kids in the way they perform in schools. And on down to K. And so this is something that I'm really looking at. And as far as also Eva, that was mentioned as far as getting involved, I don't think if the school gave us that responsibility, as they almost did, was when the monies weren't there, that the nation was ready to take over their responsibility. So, but again, it goes back to I don't think we were, but as of now, we can do those things right now. We can address those, look at those issues, help in that, address those problems, the social side of the problems and why it's happening, and work with the superintendent and get our parents involved in the teaching of their kids from K through 12, reading, math, all these other things. Utilize that technology will not go on. So, and the key also is En Haus Group, introduce that into our school system, because that helps too. That broadens their educational level as understanding and knowing another language. And how can we introduce that into our school system? En Haus Group from K through 12. That is one of our goals too, is to get that kind of education into our system and utilizing our elders as well.
Thank you. Candidate Juan Saunders.
Jama Garcia and I have made education a priority. The nation has invested well in the education department, scholarships, Head Start, One Stop, to name a few. However, we have yet to invest in kindergarten to 12th grade, and we do a great job with Tohono O'odham Community College as well by investing resources. Our proposal is to invest and to request for the use of funds to assist kindergarten to 12th grade with retention programs, to do what's necessary to keep students in school. And it's also a parent responsibility as well to ensure that students go to school. We also need to address the dropout rates. Where do the students go when they drop out? Can we do a better job with tracking where these students end up? Our O'odham not only attend school here on the nation, BIA public, but they also attend schools in Tucson, Gila Bend, Casa Grande, Stanfield, and BIA boarding schools. It's important for us to improve education because it helps to provide a workforce, reduce crime, improves healthcare, and it decreases the poverty rates that we still have here on the nation. And that's our goal, is to work with the schools to give them that support, give them that investment. When I was tribal chair, I would call the principal across the street here here. And then I received word that one of the board members asked the principal, "What are you doing talking to the chair of the Tohono O'odham Nation?" You know, there's an invisible boundary there that you know, we have to look at it from a comprehensive view because resources are scarce. I have nieces and nephews and grandchildren that attend that school, and those are invisible boundaries, and we have a vested interest in developing retention programs is to retain, to keep students in school, and we also have to address students in the alternative school, and then students that are in the juvenile corrections facility to ensure that they also have an opportunity at education despite the condition. I'm sorry, I can see the red.
Thank
He's
you.
looking at the people over there.
Our next question is, Tohono O'odham Community College has been an asset in getting more tribal members involved in higher education. How do you plan to help support TOC's growth and development, as well as other higher education institutions in efforts to create more skilled professionals? This question will go to candidate Williams first.
Certainly more of our older or younger people, or mid, I said with this, are going to school. There have been studies done that people in their 30s, 40s are going back to school, and because they've now settled down, they know what they want, and certainly we have graduated a lot of all of them, but I have not seen I guess something that's really matamachu as far as utilizing their education. Perhaps I've missed it, but I think that there needs to be more visible opportunities for them, for them to go to school, and also to start looking at them as a source of information and what they've learned in the school, in our school system, and also in our government. But we need to start pushing. We need to start introducing to them into the nursing field, into the engineering field, and all these things we need to start introducing to them, and because it's something for the future. And we don't have any doctors, as I know. I'm sure there are doctors out there, but we're not pushing them in that direction. So we need to find a way to do that. And so this is what I like to do, is try to introduce these kind of fields into our college, but also start looking at those, start finding those fundings. Where those colleges are going to be built, but that hasn't been addressed yet. So we need to start looking at pushing or having some incentive for these college students that are going to school now to get into the nursing field, or doctors, or engineers, or any of those professional fields that can.
Candidate Wong-Sanders.
Tribal colleges like the Tohono O'odham Community College is an excellent resource to help the local economy, to help the local people. For example, the employees of the Tohono O'odham Nation. You know, Tucson is 60 miles away, and we have to take time off of our jobs to go to school. But with the college here nearby, it's just like 10, 15-minute drive from at least here at this location, and our employees are scattered throughout the nation. But it's an opportunity for our own employees to take advantage, to improve their skills, management. It's also an opportunity to achieve a 2-year degree. The credits at Tohono O'odham Community College are accredited. They work with universities to develop articulation agreements to make sure that once you graduate from TOCC, you can transfer your credits to another accredited university, so you don't have to repeat the same courses. It's been successful with Head Start because at the federal level, they've required Head Start teachers to have certain certification. So Tohono O'odham Community College was successful with that, and also with developing more teachers for Indian communities. Tohono O'odham Community College can also assist the Tohono O'odham government by providing resources, but as a nation, we have already invested money in Tohono O'odham Community College. But we also need to assess what are the fields that they're focusing now, and how is that going to help the nation's government? How is that going to assist the communities and districts? GED is a service that they provide at some of the most remote areas. I know at a community meeting just over this past weekend, there was discussion about what services does TOCC actually provide. That's an educational process that needs to occur so that people understand what's available. TOCC offers programs, and it's...
Chairman Norris.
To repeat the question.
Tohono O'odham Community College has been an asset in getting more tribal members involved in higher education. How do you plan to help support TOCC's growth and development, as well as other higher education institutions, in efforts to create more skilled professionals?
Thank you. You know, I think for us to understand how community colleges receive their funding is an important factor on realizing that our community college here does not have the same kinds of resources available than any other college off of an Indian reservation may have. What I'm talking specifically is about the ability to incorporate some form of a tax, so that way those tax dollars could go towards helping the financial needs of that particular junior college institution. And so it's going to be extremely difficult for the college to be self-sufficient, the Tohono O'odham Community College, mainly because they're not going to be able to generate the kinds of revenue by requiring the tuition, by relying on its tuition from students that are going to be going to college there. And so they're always going to need some type of financial assistance from somewhere. And it's true, the government, the nation's government has invested a considerable amount of its financial resources to the college. And I expect that the government will continue to do that as long as we have the ability to do that. So I think that understanding its financial structure, and there's no question in my mind or anybody else's mind that they've really created an opportunity for our young people or middle-aged or older people or elders to take advantage of being able to go back to school and obtain some kind of an academic program. And they can only get better. They can only grow, and they can only do some more educational opportunities for our people. But we realize that education doesn't stop at high school. That education needs to be given, and the opportunity to be educated needs to be given to many of our nation's members. And Tohono O'odham Community College has proven and will continue to prove its ability to provide that service.
Thank you. Our next question is also education related. Among our middle and high school age students, dropout rates and graduation rates are critical and important to the success of our youth. What incentives do you suggest, or could your administration mandate, to motivate our young men and women to graduate from high school and attend college? And this goes first to candidate Juan Saunders.
Someone asked me recently, how did students who graduated from the schools that you're describing here on the nation, how did they graduate from college? And my response was that they had mentors in their lives. They had people who encouraged them. They had people who were there for them, because there were times when I was on college campus and I asked myself, what am I doing here? But there was always someone in my family, a teacher. When I was chair of the Tohono O'odham Nation, my 6th grade teacher came to visit me. And I remembered her because she treated the students with respect. She recognized that as O'odham children, that we played an important part here on our nation. And I believe that that's where the leadership of the Tohono O'odham Nation can work with the school system, is to work with them to ensure that they understand that what we want for our children, we want the best for our children, and how can we work in partnership to to reach that goal. What resources, as I've shared, we want to make an investment in kindergarten to 12th grade, and that's an approach we're taking to identify the dropouts that we have, to see what their age grade is now, working with the GED if necessary, but also to ensure that students that are in school right now are motivated to stay. We need to explain to our children why they're going to school. Is it just because the parents force them to go to school? It's to learn a trade, it's to earn a living, to care for themselves when they turn 18, to make good decisions. And we have to provide the proper curriculum for them to be allowed to analyze life situations, real life situations that they can take beyond when they turn 18 years of age. And I think that's important to understand at their level why they're in school.
Thank you. Candidate Lopez?
One of the key to this that we feel is utilizing our elders. We took a more mas much more to be should be Troy Gamjuri, who had to go to get to who joy và ước bộ mặt về mỗi gì hàng tác phẩm của mỗi sự đã là đôi tổ chức những mỏ tổ chức những hai chục về mỗi vì sự là chỉ là mặt tổ sự ước mà mình hỏi mà bắt sẽ một bộ chip của sẽ một bộ ở mai đi từ đi làm chứ cứ trước kia mà uri mà không sự trước kia đi từ bữa kia đi từ mà chỉ đó tầm mà mas mà chưa chỉ biết có chứ mà chỉ là família chứ mà mọi hàng tác phẩm đi làm chứ and Kugutuki mas manjid mas kugutuki mo si hai chu ida tinyo ida tim da mo kushim chu pi mi si shahu puhi la ga si mas ma si ni hai chu mo kia si mas manjid mas si na o si school ma moi hai chu and so this is so I feel that also in providing that we need to provide some incentive for our kids, providing perhaps putting in $1,000 for the best essay, for spelling bees, some kind of competition for our kids, to give them that incentive. Science projects, math, all these things that are failing at, providing those kinds of things and motivating them as mentors, as leaders, community members, as families, and start pushing our kids in that direction because they're the future. And so, and to start talking to them. Kids want to talk today, but I know must be a union, and yet kids want to talk. They want to have some dialogue between somebody and that direction. And so I know because I wanted somebody to talk to it when I was growing up, but there was nobody there. So,
Chairman Norris?
Repeat the question.
Among our middle and high school age students, dropout rates and graduation rates are critical and important to the success of our youth. What incentives do you suggest or could your administration mandate to motivate our young men and women to graduate from high school and attend college?
You know, I think that if I asked everybody in this room, is there anybody in this room that does not want their children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren to be successful? I'm sure that nobody's going to raise their hand. I feel confident that nobody would raise their hand. As parents, as grandparents, we always want our children to be successful. We always want our children to learn. We always want our children to be productive. We always want our children to be respected and responsible. So there's no question that we want the best for our children and our grandchildren and our future generations. And education is one of those opportunities to help with the success of our children. Sometimes, and I've heard candidate Lopez make this comment, you know, sometimes we are our own worst enemies. And the way I think about that, I think that too many times we have a tendency to create barriers between us and the system. or we create excuses why we can't do certain things. And in order for us to be able to address the age range, middle school to high school, and be able to have an impact on the success of our children graduating from high school, or graduating from middle school for that matter, we need to be able to sit down and work have that understanding, not only with the kids and their families, but also with the educational system itself. What are they seeing in the system that is having an influence or not an influence on the students that they're educating? What are some of the factors that they take into consideration when they're trying to provide the education to our young people? At the same time, we need to go back into our home situation and find out what are the impacts there.
All right, thank you. We are on our last question for the evening. After this last question, we'll go into closing statements. Each candidate has 3 minutes for their closing statements. But first, our last question. Alan Burson, U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner, defined border security as public safety and the sense in the community that the border is being reasonably and effectively managed. Do you believe our border here on the nation fits that definition? And in your opinion, does funding received through state homeland security grants such as Operation Stone Garden provide enough financial support to help solve our border issues on the nation? This goes first to Candidate Lopez.
No, it does not. And I've been told by another source that there are more funding that are available, but we have yet to ask. And this comes from an ex-Border Patrol agent who has worked with the Border Patrol. And that's where the nation has failed. You have to ask, and if you don't, then this kind of dollars is going to be lost. And certainly, in my understanding, we've lost some of those dollars. But yes, we do need to, it's unfortunate what happened in 9/11 and Homeland Security, but we never imagined, the nation never imagined that it would affect us, that what happened in New York on our land, and what kind of impact that would have on our culture, our tradition, our ceremonies, some of our ceremonies that we still do, and even death involving Border Patrol agents. And they're still, and those questions need to be addressed, although they have their liaisons, but I feel that we have not really fully utilized our sovereignty as a nation to address these kind of concerns that the outcome have talked about in those communities that we have gone to. Yes, there is a need for protection. Yes, there is this ongoing threat across Mexico with the cartels and the drugs, but it's what America is. There's supply and demand, but unfortunately, we're right in smack the middle of the corridor. And so we have to start looking at those kinds of dollars in our road systems, all those things that we need to start looking into really hard. But those dollars are available. And so we have to look for those resources, such as mentioned, and be out there and finding that kind of information and talking with ex-Border Patrol agents who don't know, who want to share this kind of information. There is those resources out there that can tell you those things. So, but I believe that thank you.
Okay, Chairman Norris?
The question is whether or not I agree with Commissioner Burson that, what?
Repeat the question.
Yeah, please.
Alan Burson, U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner, defined border security as public safety and the sense in the community that the border is being reasonably and effectively managed. Do you believe our border here on the nation fits that definition? And in your opinion, does funding received through state homeland security grants, such as Operation Stone Garden, provide enough financial support to help solve our border issues on the nation?
No, I don't believe that our border fits that definition. You know, and we've got to really look at this situation from a lot of angles. First of all, it took some time for the nation to be at the table with the people in Washington, D.C. that were making decisions without the nation's involvement. And we had to essentially force ourselves to the table and telling them you're making decisions that are impacting us and our people. We need to be a part of that process. You need to give us some consideration when you're making these kinds of decisions. You know, it's really difficult for the nation to take the kind of position that is being taken to the east and to the west of us. The nation's position has always been that we're never going to agree to a walled fence. And the reason why we say that is because we've got to recognize the fact that we have all the communities south of the border. We have 1,500 enrolled tribal citizens that live in Mexico, not because necessarily they want to, but because when the United States border was established, they cut them off from us. And so we need to keep that in mind as to what extent are we going to allow ourselves to secure the border. On the other hand, we have to be concerned about what the state legislature is doing. There's a bill that is being held at the governor's desk right now, waiting for her signature, that would authorize the governor and private entities to build a fence all along the southern border of the United States. And they don't specifically talk about the nation, but they include in that law federal land. Federal land to be able to establish that fence. And so there's concerns out there that the governor herself is not being considerate of our unique situation. And we need to be at the table and they need to be able to have some input and how, or if they're even going to be able to apply that law to our nation. I disagree that, I say they're not going to be able to do that.
Candidate Juan Saunders.
The Tohono O'odham Nation has 75 miles of the international boundary that borders the Tohono O'odham Nation and the country of Mexico. And the resources, the grant that you referred to from the state of Arizona is only for one specific purpose. And there's other funds that are available through the Homeland Security to assist with protecting the border. But one of the concerns that we have is, you know, in 2009, the President of the United States, working through Congress, received $700 million to protect the border. The southwest border, they said. How much of that money came to the Tohono O'odham Nation? The Department of Homeland Security has a national plan of how to address the border. Where do we fit into that plan? Where do we fit into the state's plan? In terms of any funds that are available, the Senator McCain and Senator Kyle have a 10-point plan, which is to deploy more personnel to the border, not necessarily Border Patrol agents. Where are we in that discussion? What Dalma Garcia and I have talked about is to use the effective tool of tribal consultation. President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama has required their cabinet secretaries to sit down with tribal governments before they implement their plans, to obtain input from the people, to ensure that the people understand what they're going to do on their tribal lands, and to ensure that any changes to their plans first comes to the tribal government. And our position is that we need to have effective tribal consultation with the Department of Homeland Security at the highest level, not the people that are operating here on the nation, but the people at the highest level in the Department of Homeland Security. We also, I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. That ends our question portion, our debate portion. And I would like to thank each of you for following our guidelines and rules. I know it's very difficult to answer a lot of these questions in 2 minutes or less. I think all of you did a good job. So now we will go into closing statements. Each one of you will get 3 minutes to state whatever you like. And we'll start off with Chairman Norris.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Vivian Juan Saunders and Gilman Lopez and for participating in this process. You know, as you said, it's difficult to respond in such a short period of time, and that's fine. But, you know, the fact that the three of us have stepped up to the plate and are willing to assume the enormous responsibility it takes to lead the nation, you know, is commendable of all of us, I'd say. So I want to thank them for that. But I also wanted to just say, and I'd like to invite Waverly Romero up here to stand with me, if she would please. Because Waverly is the vice chair candidate for the nation. You know, and there are a lot of things that I took into consideration when I was thinking about running again and thinking about who I would like to ask that would, I feel, fit what a vice chair of the nation really would require. And I had the opportunity to work with Waverly. She's been a legislative council member for 6 years. And I've had the opportunity to see her leadership. I've had the opportunity to see how she makes the kinds of decisions, the difficult decisions that need to be made. And I've seen the qualities in her that any administration needs to have, and the trust that they need to have in each other. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank her also for stepping up to the plate and assuming the ability to run for the office of vice chairman. You know, in order for us to be able to be compatible, we have to have respect for each other. And there are 4 words that we brought into as principles into our campaign that will be principles into our administration as well. And as Vice Chairman Lopez and I we ran with the idea that we want to work together. We've got to bring the people together in order to work and get things done. Just as we've done there, Waverly and I have brought in 4 words into our campaign. And those 4 words are compassion. One of those is compassion, and we have to be compassionate about what it is we're going to do in order to lead the nation. We have to have an understanding, a working understanding of what some of the issues are that we want to be able to address, and have compassion about what those issues are. But we also have to have faith in each other. We have to have faith in ourselves. We have to have faith in the people that we are going to lead. In addition to that, we have to understand that tradition is critical to the success in the future of our people. There are many of us that don't understand tradition as well as we should. There are many of us that don't understand our language as well as we should. There are many of us that don't understand culture as well as we should. But what we've been able to do is we've identified the fact that tradition is critical, but also we have to have respect for each other and everybody that we represent. Thank you.
All right. Candidate Juan Saunders.
Anya tapat po mo iwai Jama Garcia, machachi mapkai chimatomawa papa mcherita mas tade ko si hasai churita mato ai ke water matak apin no machma sit jo ajma masma ni mo apin ma si haka mato shora mot ake matas masma bojonye ta chichkan masma pkai je khamash ma take na sabosam aba mato si shora bojo ke chichkan masma ake si has erida de kajama mo huki amje smajik jama mo ta Department of Tribal Employment Rights Office Director for 15 years. Kamjit matak hikwan jikshan amwa hawujit Legislative Council kamjit humach mamata hikwan District Chairwoman mo mas magchuig jene matake the pianakok Chairman matak Vice Chairman amakukya kabo junior the Chairman jichpan bagi manya mas mamni matak sapo juk ita mas jipkan nagdama Poche macam kai mui hai just ke juga Tohono O'odham Corner asal macam masma ni mas kai hai just shoika mui ke macam sinta kita aja masma tat masma ni ayam macam kai macam waisi oi ita tawaka masma ki macam makin amsi aga ke macam masma ke tejura shuda economic development macam muak macam kita kita macam kita mau skut sesuatu mau juk tercipkan mau aja lepas tu yang macam kai cuma itu mata ke apa macam ini ke macam hak macam kai cuma terbaju. It's an honor to introduce Delma M. Garcia, running mate, former director of the Tribal Employment Rights Office, served on the Legislative Council, and now is the chair of the Hikuan District. The Constitution of the Tohono O'odham Nation states that in the absence of the chairman, the vice chairman will step in to fulfill those duties, and I have every confidence in Delma's abilities, and that's what you, the voters, need to consider. In 2007, only 9,000 people came out to vote for these positions. 9,000 eligible voters and only 3,000 people went to the polls to vote. And today we ask for your support and to vote for Juan Saunders and Garcia on April 30th, 2011, which is the primary election. Thank you.
Yes, Dennis, can you come up, please? I'm very fortunate to, I started out in the summer and campaigned, I believe in July. And this is how important it was to me last year. People thought I was crazy going out there. But I was very fortunate to have Dennis by my side and have the same vision and the same ideas and the same goals that we had talked about. Dennis has been involved in legislative for years, has been a chair for legislative. So I'm very fortunate to have him by my side, and I'm very confident that he will be responsive to and so I want to thank him very much. I'm very grateful to him and also his son Jeremiah, our only entourage that follows us around. We don't have a whole entourage as some of these other candidates. We're not a very glossy public relations people, kind of people. But there's mas mabochi mansiu kegandihi banyak mas maori mohokia maya ga ita maichu ita mopo ita mugi ita musaichu machukia maya mas paschu istache. Eta tosi amchira mi tohen ita rier mamaichu smash matamchira bihi ita. Supaya hai Google jamaga ita jama chuchu bugi mansiasha ori itam to Google itam elders itam araga. Kukamai nui huki mat paschama piuchu huki shashi dharma kuchu shashi utama kuchu huki amju mori monta geru menyo mui hai chambi piuchu ni amju tamchira ma ina to matamita ti hai chi tamaya Google. Pasha grupo macha masmani mat pums bi pemuisi api atasho matama bochu haichu mamashke mamais mamashke tache ki ka ishke shoi ka ki amaya oi marcha ani chipkan chamani de bota mokech mokeshke shoi chu haschu ar hukutukar godut ka ki haschu ar abashke chui ita eta mu chigarier te dabachi piamune erga mokech bota papu igrier kita hukki mai uch Kukutuki macam siasuri tu macam kor masuri tenas mumat mosi oi ita ka mohasa nyonyo tiko mohai shahas ichu mat boshi gota tiko mas hasa ta ka moya ka mosai oi ita chiku mat paschami haschami mat paschami amoina to ita mati no chucha pai masi hasi chu ita rec center ita musai chu Kukutuki mama chui mama shkiai ita mat koema bochu haichu kita chuchu mas masuk di magaria mama pelaga kukutuki mama salu mama tamasini huke poida shkashoi kama gota kukutuki manya mat tamasini kama amai hau ita ama hasia ita masya page. Thank you.
Again, I'd like to thank our participants this evening. This wasn't an easy task. And also to thank En Haus Group and its sponsors for actually putting this debate together. And also our audience. Sorry I haven't gotten back to you this whole time. So what we're going to have now is our closing song by the
San Miguel. Thưa một chia chia mà tao mà họ cái ý tao mà nhớ nhọc mà móp thì cứ cho cứ tái cột chairman of the nation cứ sa sắp hợp cái chứ cái mà á cái mà hát mà nhị thay chứ sao bà hơi cái mà nhập ở đây mà chấm sky em mà ta mà sát ở đây ta cái hơi cái mà thắt chú cái hát chú yêu na to hát chú mà scary mà ta mà bỏ chú hát chú bà ở đây ta một si sát sai chú mà ta si suy na mà mọi oi vừa suy cái nhầm chú mà mình tao cá hơi cái bà mà sát mà ta hơi cái mà ta mà cái bà số si hỏi cái đó cái mà tia ta cái am sát ta số cái mà hát ở đây thay chú. Thank you.